Buckle up gentlemen, we got sponsor for today's video. That's right, it's LDPlayer. What? You haven't downloaded LDPlayer yet? Why the heck not? LDPlayer is my main emulator since it's the most Sigma Android emulator ever. And it has feature that other don't. Like the sync feature that allow you to play multiple account. You can play 2 account at the same time. Heck, even better, 8 account.
Oh my piece.
Anyway, download LDPlayer now, link in description or pinned comment down below. Gentlemen, the arrival of the upcoming Fest banners is approaching, and there will be 3 featured banners to choose from. This raises the question, which one should you prioritize? For beginners, I highly recommend that new players prioritize the Senako banner, followed by Rio. Senako Sonic AoE DPS is an exceptionally powerful unit for beginners, and remains effective well into the end game. She specializes in Sonic type AoE damage, making her highly effective against elastic type enemies. Even when facing enemies with moderate defense stats, her basic skill helps by reducing the enemy's defense, allowing her to deal consistent damage. One of her most valuable features is her gauge mechanic. The gauge charges every time another student's X skill is used, not including her own. It requires 3 X skill activations to fill 1 segment, with a maximum of 2 segments. Once full, the gauge grants an attack buff to Senako. The gauge is consumed as she uses her X skill, but unlike most characters, her X skill remains in your hand and can be reused until the gauge is depleted. With the right timing, it's even possible to use her X skill 4 times consecutively, which can drastically boost your battle efficiency. In the early game, she is incredibly versatile and can be used effectively against any armored type, making her an invaluable asset for progressing through normal and hard campaign stages. The next unit to consider is Rio, a solid choice for a special slot support unit. Rio's X skill allows her to copy the X skill of another student, and provides a moderate attack buff to one ally, while also reducing their X skill cost by 1. The ability to copy X skill is particularly valuable, as it enables double X skill activations with ease, without relying on intricate skill rotations or exact timing. Her basic skill applies a defense debuff per single enemy, which is useful in raids or bosses with high defense stats. Her enhanced skill, however, only increases her own attack, which is often not impactful and can be considered low priority, unless you've unlocked her enhanced skill plus. If you do reach ES plus, it increases the duration of the buff from her E skill from 20 seconds to nearly 24 seconds. While this is a subtle improvement, it might not be essential unless you're aiming for top rank performance. Even at 3 stars, Rio remains highly effective. You should focus on upgrading her E skill, sub skill, and basic skill if you have resources to spare. The enhanced skill can mostly be ignored unless you plan to invest heavily into her. Yunaru is a decent pick but has a more niche role as a single target piercing DPS, particularly effective in urban terrain. She is commonly used by endgame and top rank players, but for newer players, she may not offer the same level of universal utility as Senako or Rio. If you are planning to spark guaranteed pull for Rio, attempting to also get Yunaru in the same cycle might not be efficient. However, if you're considering doing a second spark, then pursuing Yunaru is more reasonable. You may also have the opportunity to obtain other past Fest limited students during that spark cycle, making it a potentially worthwhile investment. Conclusion: prioritize Senako if you don't already have her. She's a reliable AoE DPS unit from early to late game. Next, go for Rio, a strong special support who offers excellent X skill flexibility and team synergy. Lastly, consider Yunaru only if you're planning a second spark, or aiming for a specific urban piercing DPS setup. That should cover all the key points regarding the upcoming banners. As always, Godspeed.